So in this video, I'm going to show you how to get started with FEDn from the FEDn repository. So here you see on the scale out page the different repositories. So we have FEDn, which is the federated learning runtime. We also have the examples folder, which is also something we're going to work with. So the first step to get started is to go to FEDn and deploy what we call the FEDn network. So that is the sort of core components, the reducer and the combiner. You can read about this in the documentation. So the best way to get started is through this quick start guide here. And we do the sudo distributed deployment. And this means we're going to deploy one combiner and one reducer on localhost. So I'm working on a MacBook Pro laptop right now. So this first step here, Docker network create, that's to create a Docker network. And I have already done this on this machine, but if you haven't, you would do it like that, and you create a new Docker network. So this is because I'm going to start services from different terminals, and all these services, they will need to be able to communicate with each other on the same Docker network. So the first thing I need to do, so FEDn, the reducer needs a backend with a MongoDB database and a Minio object storage. The Minio is where it's going to store what we call the model trail, the global model updates, and MongoDB is essentially the sort of database that stores states for the reducer, the discovery service. So I'm going to go ahead and boot up these services. There we go. And as you can see here, we have the services up. So the next thing I'm going to do is we can actually check the direction online. You see here. So next we're going to start the reducer. We'll do it like that. This is very quick. I have already cached the Docker image, but if you do this for the first time, it will of course take some time to download. We can actually check that the reducer is up and running, so it should be on localhost 8090. And yeah, you can see here, and then it's waiting to be configured. We're going to come back to that step. I'm going to start up one combiner as well, so I will copy this command. Go to yet another terminal, make that a little bit bigger. Start a combiner. And there we go. You see it connected to the reducer. So we're all good to go. So now we have the FEDn network up and running. So the next step is then to configure the system with an example and to start some clients. And to do this, we link to this example in the examples repository. So we're going to start an example based on MNIST and Akira's model for that. So we have the instructions for doing that here. And the first step we need to do is to configure the reducer. So let's go to that page again. And what we need to do there is we need to upload something called the compute package and the seed model. So the first thing is we need to set the compute package. So we do this there. I have already cloned the example repository on my local computer. Now examples, MNIST, and then we have the model there. Package is right here, package. I will open that, upload that. And then it asks me to put in the initial model. So I find that here in the same examples repository. So this is the untrained blank neural network that we upload, like this. And you see now the system is configured. You can see on the network that we have one combiner up. We don't have any active clients. But the next step then is to start a client. And then we will do this on our same laptop. And what we're going to do is we're going to download the client config, which essentially is a YAML file with connection information to the deployment we have. In this case, you see here, it returns to me that the reducer is running with Discover hosting reducer on port 8090. And as you can see here, we typed localhost 8090 here because the container for the reducer has forwarded that port on localhost. But here we actually need to be on we need to put clients on the same network since we don't have an external network for the reducer. So the reducer is the service name on the Docker network. You will get this if you look at the Docker Compose files. But this is good. So then we can go back to the instructions and we will look at the how to do this. And what we need to do then is, because we are running the reducer on the Docker network, we're going to go with the Docker or Docker Compose way of deploying the client. So I will pop up a new window, a little bit bigger. And I will go now to the examples folders, so we can work here in the Keras folder. So the first step that you would need to do would be to build the actual image, and we provide a Docker file that will build this. And this is the reason then is the client, of course, is going to work with the machine learning framework at hand, in this case Keras, so we need a certain execution context that is specified in requirements here. So this thing just builds the Docker image, is also installs, in this case, FEDn from the develop branch, like that, and prepares the environment. This takes about 5 to 10 minutes depending on your networking or your broadband speed. I have already done this, so what I will do then is I will start the client, and as you can see, if you look in this folder here, we have the data set in the folder data, and then you can go and look at sort of the documentation for the compute package to firmly understand this. But what we need to do when we start the client containers, we're going to have to mount the data folder on the certain path in the container for the compute package to execute correctly. So this is the instructions to do this. If you prefer, you can also use Docker Compose, but I like this native Docker command because then you actually see what you're doing there. So we put this here. Oh yeah, first I will open the client file. Just to check, in here I have previously run against an external combiner, so I will just replace the content of this file with the current reducer I want to connect to. There we go. And then I will take this command here, paste it, and then you see I need to provide the absolute paths to this repository, these files that I'm working with. So if you check here, I will do this. Oh, crap. And it's important that this is the absolute path. Copy this. And then the same for the data mount. So the -v command there mounts files or folders on the local host machine in the container. Oh, I got it. So now we'll start this up. You can see here it connected the reducer, it got assigned to the combiner, and now it's attached. We can verify that in the UI. So you see we now have a client running. Refresh this to see it refresh in the list. But now we have sort of a degenerate alliance here with one client running, but that's sufficient for now. So at this point, to start training, you just go to the control page, choose some number of runs that you want to run, and then you start. And you will see training firing off. And then, of course, you can repeat and add more clients as you see fit in this case. You see now the client starts training. The system is working. You can follow the progress in the log in the UI like this. So this is it. This is how you get started with the local pseudo-distributed deployment of FEDn.